Hi guys, it's me, HD, and welcome to the race watch along for the 2021 Italian Grand Prix. Hopefully, you guys are doing well on this, what is Sunday afternoon for me. Very hot and sunny, by the way, Sunday afternoon at the track. And we are awaiting what could be a very exciting Grand Prix, considering the grid we have for this Grand Prix. And it looks as though, for the first time in a few races at least, that we have not just Mercedes and Red Bull fighting at the front, also McLaren up there as well. So we are going to have, I think, a good Grand Prix, and a Grand Prix where definitely they'll be racing to the very end, and it won't be decided by, say, the time we come to the pit stops or anything like that. It's going to be going down, I feel, right down to the wire. And yeah, hopefully you guys are doing well. Hopefully, no matter what time it is in your part of the world, hopefully you're having as best a day as you could possibly be having. And hopefully with me today, you're either going to watch along the session and enjoy me taking you through it, or if you can't watch the session and you want to listen along, of course, that's fine. Of course, if you can't watch the session, then it'll be my pleasure to take you through the events of this Grand Prix. And I'll make sure to keep you guys absolutely updated to the second as to what is going on the circuit during the race. And of course, the race starts in just under 30 minutes time. There has been one change to the grid that I have seen, and it's only that Pierre Gasly has dropped to 20th now, I believe, because he will be starting from the pit lane. Pierre Gasly, after his accident yesterday into the wall through Curva Grande. Now, first thing I need to get into is I will once again be doing this alone. Nib cannot come on. I think I said this last week, but I'll echo it again. Going through a rough time. Of course, he's in Melbourne, and they're all in lockdown and all of that. And yeah, he's going through a rough time at the moment, and it would be great if you guys in the chat could, put some good messages, some lovely messages in the chat, sending your love to him and any love hearts or anything like that, because yeah, he's not having the greatest time at the moment, and hopefully sometime in the future we will reconnect with him, and he'll come back to the stream, because I know you guys want to see him back, because he is a great contributor to the channel, and of course a very good friend. So yeah, hopefully we'll see him sometime soon before the end of the season. But yeah, I will be alone today. And of course, if you guys at any point do miss certain bits of the race watch along, just to let you guys know, I will be, of course, recording the race part of this stream and then uploading the best bits tomorrow. That's if there's no incident to analyze. I'll be uploading that tomorrow on the channel, going through, hopefully, an exciting Grand Prix, and you'll be able to re-listen to the best bits of the Grand Prix, and hopefully some very exciting moments. Now, before I get on to the teams and how I think certain parts of the field, how the battles are going to evolve today, let's get into the starting grid and what the battles are going to be. Now, of course, these are the results from the sprint race yesterday. Valtteri Bottas won it. He will be starting, though, in 19th place. Gasly, like I said, will be starting from the pit lane. The reason Bottas is starting 19th is because he's incurred a penalty for or using too many power units. So that's why Bottas, even though he won the race yesterday, will be starting at the back. And then Max Verstappen will be starting on pole position. Daniel Ricciardo, his ex-teammate of, 3 years or 2.5 years, something like that, will be starting alongside him on the front row. It's the first time Ricciardo has started on the front row since, I think, the 2018 Monaco Grand Prix, which, of course, he won that Grand Prix in 2018. And then, yeah, Norris will be third with Lewis Hamilton in fourth. By the way, it's also McLaren's best qualifying result, I believe, since 2012. The sprint race thing, to me, still isn't really qualifying, but technically speaking, it is a qualifying result. So yeah, Norris will be third and Hamilton will be fourth. A lot of work to do for Lewis Hamilton to utilise the pace of the Mercedes, and also to get after Max Verstappen. Mercedes, I do, like I said in my race preview, I think Mercedes have the best car this weekend, but with the two McLarens in the way, it will benefit Max Verstappen and hold off Hamilton before he can put up a serious challenge to Lewis Hamilton. Still, though, I think Lewis Hamilton can definitely get after Max Verstappen today if he gets past those two McLarens pretty quickly. Then the two Ferraris on the third row, 5th and 6th. And then you got Antonio Giovinazzi 7th. And then Perez 8th, Stroll 9th, and Alonso 10th. Again, reminder, Bottas, even though he was first, he will start 19th if there's anyone just joining. Yeah, that's your top 10. And then it'll be Vettel 11th, Ocon 12th, and then Latifi 13th, Russell 14th, Tsunoda 15th, Mazepin 16th, Kubica 17th, Schumacher 18th, Bottas 19th, and Gasly in 20th place. That is what the grid will be. And I think we may as well now get into the previewing, of course, of this Grand Prix. Let me just adjust this picture quickly of Lewis Hamilton, who, of course, so we might as well just get straight into him, of course, has a lot of work to do in this Grand Prix today. Because if we look at how the weekend's gone, so on Friday, Mercedes were clearly the best team. No doubt about it. Their pace was miles ahead of anyone else. They were, 3 or 4 tenths quicker than Red Bull in Friday qualifying. And it was genuine. If you look at the speed traps so far this weekend, Mercedes have been topping them. And Red Bull haven't been able to get near Mercedes in any of the sectors. So Mercedes are genuinely, this weekend, the quickest. Valtteri Bottas winning the sprint race yesterday, I think, confirms that as well. So Mercedes, I think if they had even just pole position with Hamilton, with Verstappen alongside, of course, there would be the possibility of Verstappen being a threat at the start or whatever. But I think, honestly, if Mercedes had pole position here, because of their pace, I think they would run away with this Grand Prix, because their pace is very, very strong. It's probably the strongest pace we've seen, what we saw in Friday qualifying, and really this weekend. It's the strongest we've seen from them since, say, Hungary in qualifying there, where they were, 2 or 3 tenths quicker there. Strongest since then, and maybe before then you'd say the Portuguese Grand Prix as well was another race where they were similarly strong like this. So, yeah, it's not been that common of a sight. And of course, Mercedes winning Grand Prix this season has not been that common. They've only won 4 races this season, and we've had, 14? I think 13 or 14. So it's been, like I said, a pretty rare occurrence this season, which is quite a shock. And Red Bull have won, I think, 9 races this season. So Mercedes still miraculously so close in the championship. But yeah, I think Mercedes today are going to have a struggle to win. This man will be one of the men holding up Lewis Hamilton a lot in this Grand Prix if Hamilton cannot get ahead of those McLarens on the first lap. Because McLaren are genuinely quick. McLaren even feel as though if they can get ahead of Verstappen at the start, that they could be able to win this Grand Prix. Which, if you look at the sector time data from qualifying on Friday, seems, I think, reasonable. Because in the first and third sector, McLaren are quicker than Red Bull. The Mercedes power unit, like I said, looks to be the strongest this weekend. So, I think definitely McLaren, looking at the data and looking at what they've been like this weekend, are a genuine threat. I still think Hamilton will be quick enough to be, at the very least, right on the gearbox of the two McLarens, because, like I said, I think Mercedes have absolutely the quickest car this weekend. But I think even if Max Verstappen can't really get away from the McLarens, because those two McLarens will be blocking Hamilton and hurting his tyres and, all of that, Hamilton will always, I think, in this race, if he cannot get ahead of at least one of them on the first lap, will always be in a bit of a struggle during this Grand Prix to really fight against Max Verstappen, which of course he needs to. And really, given the pace of the Mercedes this weekend, they really should be winning this Grand Prix. because they've been clearly the best team. There's no doubt about it. Red Bull have been pretty lucky, to be honest, with how things have happened, with Bottas's penalty and Hamilton's poor start. Like I said, Red Bull have been pretty lucky because their car is not that quick. It's nowhere near as quick as I thought it would be. So, yeah, Red Bull, if they can get a win, Red Bull, from Max Verstappen today, then, this is going to be one of those races where it really could help deciding the championship in terms of they're not at their best, clearly, but still get, a fantastic result, which, of course, if you're able to do that in a championship fight, that is absolutely vital to your season. And it shows also that as a team on a Sunday, that performance from Red Bull has, generally, in terms of the results, is stronger. So it would be great from Red Bull if they could do that. But again, going back to Mercedes, they have the pace to win in clear air, but, we need to see if he can get ahead of the two McLarens. We need to see if he can get his way up to Max Verstappen and possibly fight Verstappen in this Grand Prix as that person walking on the grid. It's either the guy who won the 100 meters in the Olympics or it's Vin Diesel. I don't know for sure who it is, but yeah, that was very interesting to see that. But yeah, I think given the way the grid is, I'd have to say Max Verstappen is my favourite to win this Grand Prix today because the two McLarens are there. Even though McLaren, I think, will be right there with Verstappen during the Grand Prix, at least for the first 20 laps. I think they'll be right there. After that, we'll have to see. We'll have to see what McLaren do on strategy, whether they can attack Verstappen in any way. But yeah, I think the two McLarens being there really help Max Verstappen, and I think will help Verstappen to win this Grand Prix. If Hamilton was starting in second and it was Verstappen on pole, even with Verstappen on pole, I'd say definitely Lewis Hamilton would win because of the extra pace that the Mercedes has compared to the Red Bull. But the two McLarens, of course, showing their great speed up in second and third on the grid. Cannot wait to see what they can do. And like I said with McLaren, they have the pace, absolutely, to compete for victory. I don't think they will win because I think ultimately the Verstappen-Red Bull combination is too strong and will be able to hold the McLarens at bay. But if at any point Max Verstappen is made a slight mistake on the exit of the Parabolica or, exit of any corner going onto a long straight, the McLarens have the straight line speed to overtake, and two drivers who we know are brilliant at overtaking. So they're absolutely McLaren in the fight today. But I still think, realistically, their aim has got to be a podium because even though the pace from them this weekend has been good, it's not been on pure pace, race-winning level. Really, they benefited a lot from, Hamilton's poor start and Valtteri Bottas having his penalty. That's the reason McLaren are in the part of the grid that they are in, not because they're genuinely quick enough to be on, you'd be winning the race or anything or competing for race victory. It's because of the circumstances of the weekend, which, of course, if they benefit from it, then great. But like I said, their pace is more so them challenging for third place rather than, challenging for first place. So I'd be a bit surprised, honestly, if McLaren were to win, but I do think they have the pace for it, but I would still be surprised because Verstappen and Hamilton are so great and their two teams, of course. So great. Let's quickly, though, get onto this team, Ferrari. Now, I said this in my race preview, even though they're on the third row of the grid, Charles Leclerc 5th and Carlos Sainz dismantled on screen in 6th, that does not mean that they will be quick enough to finish in those positions. I actually think it will be quite the opposite because those positions do not represent how quick they are. In qualifying, they qualified on Friday in 7th and 8th. And even though they both out-qualified Sergio Perez, I believe Sergio Perez will be in this race quick enough to beat the two Ferraris today because the Red Bull car has looked quicker. And I think Perez, we know in the races, when it comes to a race situation, Perez is always quicker, and Red Bull in the races do tend to be a lot quicker than Ferrari are in terms of translating their pace in qualifying to the race. So, yeah, I think Red Bull with Perez will be able to beat the two Ferraris, and then Valtteri Bottas as well, I think will come back from the back of the grid and probably beat one of them. I don't think Ferrari will be strong enough to be, way ahead of the rest of the midfield because of the Ferrari's lack of power. In Sector 1, yet in Friday qualifying, they were easily miles off the McLarens, Mercedes, Red Bulls, and really around, Williams and AlphaTauri and Aston Martin really in the first sector. And as long as those teams, Aston Martin, even maybe an Alpine, an Alfa Romeo, also Antonio Giovinazzi was very quick in the speed traps yesterday and Friday. As long as those teams can stay within a second of the Ferrari cars, because Ferrari don't have the power, and by the way, that person who was walking on the grid, I don't think it was, I don't know who it was, sorry, yet. I'll make sure to let you guys know, or maybe someone can confirm. But, yeah, I think Ferrari definitely will drop back from 5th and 6th. I'd be very surprised if they finished there. And I think, honestly, if they were to get even more points than they're heading for now, of course, if they finished in 5th and 6th, they would be heading for 18 points. If they were to get any more than that, or just 18 points, that would be a spectacular result, considering last year, Ferrari at this circuit were so horrendously bad. I remember they were 3 seconds a lap off the pace of the front runners. That's how bad they were. And now they're within a second, they're 7 or 8 tenths of a second per lap slower than the absolute front runners. So a massive, massive jump forward from Ferrari. Great to see. And we'll see what they can do in this race. And with the rest of the teams, Giovinazzi, of course, I think he will get a points finish today. I don't know where it'll be, but I think he will get one. Home race, he's, performed very well this weekend, been very good as of late, and I think he will get a points finish. He's looked very good this weekend, so I don't really see him just suddenly dropping off. But the big fight, I think, for points, I think Valtteri Bottas, by the way, will definitely come through and finish in the points because the Mercedes car, like I said, it's the quickest car on the grid this weekend, without a doubt. I think the big fight for the rest of the points, really, as by the way, Usain Bolt is at the track, if you guys are wondering, and I think, it is Vin Diesel as well at the circuit. The big fight, I think, will be the 2 Aston Martins, 2 Alpines, and also Pierre Gasly. Because remember, Gasly, on Friday, qualified 6th. And if you look at the sector time data, I think it's Sector 2, he was quicker than everybody else except for the 2 Mercedes. So Gasly is very quick, and his position of, being at the back does not, of course, represent where he actually is. And Gasly, I think as long as he can get, kind of similar to Hamilton, as long as he can get clean air, his pace is easily good enough to be right up there in the top 10. So I think you are going to see Gasly and Bottas for sure rising their way through the grid. Hard to say, though, who's going to win out of, say, the 2 Aston Martins, Alpines, and Gasly in terms of the final few points positions. Because there's 5 cars fighting for 2 points positions, I'd say. Really? I mean, Stroll probably yes, because he's always scored points at Monza, and Aston Martin look definitely better than they were last weekend. And then the second guy, you'd have to say it's probably between Gasly, Vettel, and Alonso for the last point. So, yeah, it's hard. It is still hard to say, really, who is going to grab those final couple points positions. But yeah, Gasly, Vettel, Alonso. By the way, Ted Kravitz is going to try and interview Vin Diesel here on the grid, which I don't think he'll be able to be honest, because he's quite a busy man. But yeah, Gasly, Vettel, and Alonso, like I said, I think will be fighting over the last few points paying positions. As Ted is desperately trying to get an interview with him, but he's obviously going to get fobbed off. And almost crashes on the grid with the CEO of Ferrari, John Elkann. So wonderful from Ted, our favourite man, of course, when it comes to Formula One. But yeah, I think going back to the race, I think we are going to be in for a good race today. Definitely better than Zandvoort. Of course, you can overtake here. I know the sprint race we didn't see, or you guys didn't see much overtaking. Just to let you guys know, by the way, I didn't watch the sprint race. I actually haven't seen any of it, and thank God, because if it did, it would cause me a serious brain injury, I have to say. But I don't think, like I said, I think we'll get a lot of battles today. The top four fighting for, the top four positions. And then say the two Ferraris and Perez and maybe Bottas later on. And then Giovinazzi, Stroll, Vettel, Alonso, Gasly, Ocon, all fighting for the last few points positions. I think we'll get plenty of battles today. But one thing I will say is don't expect the first 20, 25 laps to be, this amazing spectacle. I think what will happen is after the first round of pit stops. The first round of pit stops, by the way, should be sometime between lap 25 and 32 or something like that. There's only going to be one pit stop today because tyres, they do degrade here, but not enough to force an extra pit stop. And also, you lose a lot of time pitting for a second time here at the Italian Grand Prix. But I think, like I said, we'll get a lot of battles. It'll be a very close field in certain parts of the field. But in terms of sheer, racing and overtaking, I don't think we'll see any of that seriously until the last 20 laps or so, when we get people on different strategies and people on different either tyre compounds or fresher tyres, tyres that are near the end of their life at the end of the race. That's when I think you will see, especially with the hot conditions we have and also the step softer compound tyres we have compared to last weekend. And also, it's 10 degrees hotter this weekend than it was last weekend. Like I said, I think you'll see, definitely towards the end of the race, some racing between a lot of the cars. And hopefully in the front four positions, because it would be great if the two McLarens, Verstappen and Hamilton, could race to the end, fighting for victory. But guys, we have, 7 minutes to go until the formation lap starts here at Monza. And I just want to say, don't forget, guys, to subscribe if you are new to the channel. And, of course, hit the notifications bell for more streams and videos like this. Because we will be doing this for every race and qualifying session remaining for the rest of the season. And the next one is, in 2 weeks in Russia. So, like I said, we do this all the time. So don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. And hit the notifications bell as well. Smash the like button and share this video and channel everywhere you can. Really does help out the channel in terms of growth. Just want to say though, final 6 minutes. Make sure right now in the live chat to put your top 5 prediction for the race today. What are you going for the race today? Do you think Max Verstappen's going to win? Or can McLaren win? Will Hamilton win? Let me know right now in the live chat. Again, your first, second, third, fourth, and fifth. I'll give mine quickly. I think Max Verstappen will win just from Lewis Hamilton second. And then I'm going to go Daniel Ricciardo in third and Lando Norris in fourth. And fifth, I am going to go for Sergio Perez in the Red Bull. That is what I'm going to go for my top 5. And also, in case you guys didn't know, as I start recording this part of the stream, I will be uploading the best bits from this stream either tomorrow or Tuesday. I'll let you guys know after or when we come to the end of this stream. Obviously, it depends if there's any incidents to analyse. And if there is, then I'll upload that on Monday. I'm just going to quickly mute my microphone just to... as Yuki Tsunoda's car, by the way, is being pulled back into the pit. So there appears to be a problem with Yuki Tsunoda's car. So he will be starting from the back now. Such a shame for AlphaTauri. That is really a shame. But yeah, it's going to quickly mute my microphone to clear my throat. And of course, prepare it for the race ahead. And there you go. And yeah, hopefully you guys have got your predictions flying in the chat. And I'll read out some now. BM says Ricciardo, Norris, Leclerc, Verstappen. Pod Smithy says Ricciardo first McLaren win, he hopes. Austin says Max. Narul says hope Max wins. Say Regara says Norris, Verstappen, Ricciardo, Hamilton, Stroll. Austin says Max, Ricciardo, Bottas, Lando, Lewis. If Bottas was to come through and get a podium, by the way, that's definitely driver of the day right there. Astro Stevo says Ricciardo to win. Of course he would. Hamilton second, Norris third, Perez fourth, Bottas fifth. Also, I am hoping Ricciardo does well for Nib's sake, because it would be great to see Ricciardo doing well. What's been not that great of a season compared to last season. It's not been bad, but not been as good as it could have been. Jerry Marino says Max, Lando, Lewis, Perez, Daniel. Dexter Hall says Max, Lewis, Norris, Danny, Sainz. Brabham Oz, great to see you, by the way, regular in the Discord. Says Max, Hamilton, Ricciardo, Norris, Leclerc. And Ewok just saying in the chat that Tsunoda has an issue with his suspension. And I'll just quickly read Twitter. And yeah, Tsunoda back in the pit lane. Can't see any more clarification on that. As Bert Templar says, for his prediction, he's going Max Verstappen to win from Hamilton, Leclerc, Ricciardo, and Carlos Sainz. Kevin Sweeney says Parabolica now called Curva Alboreto. Well, I'm still going to call it the Parabolica because that's what it is. It's the Parabolica. Always will be, in my view. But I think in a moment we'll start getting the graphics ready. But guys, here we are for the hot and sunny Italian Grand Prix. The grid, nice and mixed up. And I think we are in for a very hard-fought Grand Prix. And hopefully a very hotly contested fight for victory between four people who are very talented: Verstappen, Ricciardo, Norris, and Hamilton. And hopefully we get to see a proper fight for victory. Something we didn't, of course, get at Zandvoort. And I think I will pretty much now start getting my graphics ready because they're now going through the starting grid on screen. Let me just quickly do that for you guys. Get it all ready. So I'll just quickly adjust this running order because, of course, Gasly will be starting. Oh no, Gasly I think will start 19th now because Tsunoda is at the back at the moment. So it'll be Tsunoda in 20th. There you go. Update this picture of Darren Sainz as here we go. So this is the starting grid for your Italian Grand Prix. Max Verstappen starting on pole position from Daniel Ricciardo second. Third is Lando Norris. Fourth, Hamilton. Fifth, Leclerc. Sixth is Carlos Sainz. Seventh, Antonio Giovinazzi. Eighth, Perez. Ninth, Stroll. 10th is Fernando Alonso, of course. Alonso has won the Italian Grand Prix twice before. And then you have Vettel 11th, Ocon 12th, Latifi 13th, Russell 14th. And then we believe, because Tsunoda has been wheeled back into the pits, that it'll be Mazepin 15th. And obviously not Raikkonen in 16th because he's not here because of COVID. It'll be Kubica in 16th, 17th Schumacher, and then I think it'll be 18th Bottas, 19th Gasly and Tsunoda, 20th. We still, though, don't know if Tsunoda will be starting the race because he's been wheeled back into the pits quite late on. Of course, because of the sprint yesterday, that means that everyone gets to start on the tyres they want to. So I think you'll see most people here, maybe everyone, going for a set of medium tyres to start this Grand Prix. As I'll just quickly get the ticker ready. And yeah, everyone is on the medium. Lewis Hamilton is starting on the hard compound tyre. That's interesting. Everyone on the medium except Hamilton is on the hard. Kubica is on the hard. And I think Bottas is on the hard as well, and so is Gasly. But Lewis Hamilton, the hard compound tyre, that is something I did not see coming. And formation lap is now underway. And I'll just get the graphics ready. Of course, it is a 53-lap race. And because of how fast Monza is, there's a reason they call it, of course, the Temple of Speed. This race, if there's no safety cars, which hopefully we don't get any of that from last year, then this race should be one of the quickest in F1 history because of how quick the average speed of the cars is, or of the laps is, because of course how quick the cars is. So this race might only be an hour and 15 or an hour and 20 minutes. Amazing to think, when normally you think races are going to be 2 hours, or, you know, at least an hour and 35 or an hour and 40. But this race, again, so fast that it's over just after an hour. As Max Verstappen is already now coming up to... by the way, Kimi Raikkonen is okay. He tested positive for COVID last Saturday at Zandvoort. He's just isolating. I'm sure he's absolutely fine. But, yeah, the front of the field already now coming through the Ascari chicane, the front six. And like I said, everyone on the medium compound tyre except for Lewis Hamilton in 4th, Robert Kubica in 16th place, and then Bottas and Gasly. As I don't believe, by the way, Yuki Tsunoda is going to get out on track. I'm just going to quickly check that. And yeah, can't see anything at the moment, but I'd say Tsunoda is in serious trouble. And yeah, Yuki Tsunoda is out of the race. So Yuki Tsunoda is already out. Shame for him, but he wasn't too quick this weekend anyway. Of course, this race, a 53-lap race, is great to see so many Italians here, willing on, of course, the home team. I think they're in for a very good race today. One thing I will say about McLaren, which is very impressive, is looks as though their rear wing is not as small as the Red Bulls, yet they are quicker in a straight line. Shows you how quick McLaren are in that area. As the field now starts to line up on the grid. And now we wait to see what happens. Can Daniel Ricciardo take the lead of a Grand Prix genuinely? And for the first time since he was at Red Bull. Lots happened since he was at Red Bull. Since he was teammates with the man alongside him on the front row. And we'll now see if he can have a successful race today. As Ricciardo still waiting at the front of the grid, as now Valtteri Bottas lines up. And the green flag now waves and the lights are now on. It's 3 lights, it's 4, it's 5 here at Monza. Lights out and away we go straight away. And Max Verstappen has got a not so great start as Daniel Ricciardo down the inside. And Ricciardo is into the lead of the Italian Grand Prix. Verstappen held to the outside. And yes, Ricciardo leads at Monza. Hamilton has passed Norris for 3rd. Great start for Hamilton on the hard compound there, but Ricciardo not just in the lead, he is clearly in the lead of this Grand Prix. There's a lot of slipstreaming going up, and Hamilton going to try and go round the outside of Verstappen into the 2nd chicane. Oh, and Hamilton has to skip across the chicane, and Verstappen goes back through, and so does Lando Norris. And big crash. The Ferrari of Sainz and Giovinazzi. Giovinazzi, I believe, is out of the race by the looks of it. As Ricciardo is in the lead. Norris is in a green flag. So I think Giovinazzi has got going again. So, Ricciardo in the lead. Verstappen 2nd. Norris 3rd. Hamilton 4th. Leclerc 5th. Sainz is 6th. Sergio Perez is 7th. Virtual safety car is out on the track. I got flashbacks, by the way, with Hamilton and Verstappen to Hamilton and Vettel in 2018. I thought we were heading for the same thing there. But luckily, we didn't. By the way, thankfully, it's not a full safety car. And here's a replay of Hamilton and Verstappen. And I don't think there was... We'll have to see a replay, but my first initial reaction is I don't think there was anything wrong with that, but I would like to see more replays because it's hard to tell at the moment. And yeah, Giovinazzi, I think, was clipped on the rear end by a Ferrari. Good start from Giovinazzi, made his way up to 6th place, went wide, then went over the chicane as the virtual safety car about to end. And yeah, I think when coming back on the track, just veered into someone's way, not on purpose, of course. And they are now back racing, so the virtual safety car is over, and we're now on lap 2 out of 53. And we have Daniel Ricciardo leading from Max Verstappen 2nd, Norris 3rd, Hamilton 4th as Giovinazzi is into the pits for a new front wing, and then Leclerc 5th, Carlos Sainz in P6, and then Perez is 7th, Stroll is 8th, and then it's Alonso 9th with Esteban Ocon in 10th. So that is your top 10. By the way, great start for Latifi up to P11. Sebastian Vettel is 12th. Russell is 13th. Kubica is up to 14th place. It's, by the way, Ricciardo, got to say, driving very well. He's in the lead, but he's not really under threat from Max Verstappen. He's got a 1.2 second lead, exactly what he needs if he's going to win this Italian Grand Prix. He doesn't, though, do the fastest lap. Max Verstappen does that, or no, Lewis Hamilton now does that on the hard compound tyre. As now Perez does the fastest lap. As Valtteri Bottas now is all over the back of Robert Kubica. And Bottas now overtakes. So Valtteri Bottas is he now goes down the inside. Of course, both Bottas and Kubica are on the hard compound tyres. And Kubica now down to 15th place in the Alfa Romeo. And then you've got Mick Schumacher in 16th. And then Gasly, I believe, in 17th. Mazepin 18th. And then Giovinazzi in 19th. And of course, Yuki Tsunoda, like I've said, is out of the race. Great start, by the way, for Daniel Ricciardo. Down the inside. And the reason the reason pole position here is not that great of a position to start is because it's very important to have the inside line for turn 1. Very, very important. Because if you're around the outside at turn 1, it's very hard to make a move work. You have to really, make it a almost near perfect overtake if you're going to do that. So Ricciardo was actually, as long as he got away as good as Max Verstappen, and he actually got away better, 0.2 of a second quicker on the reaction time there. As long as he gets a start like that, because he has the inside line, it puts him in such a great position. I need to see a replay again of that, of Hamilton and Verstappen. I wasn't really paying attention. Let me know, though, in the chat, guys. And yeah, it was Carlos Sainz. And by the looks of it, couldn't really go anywhere. So can't really blame him too much. And Lance Stroll there, forcing his way past Sebastian Vettel on the first lap and almost pushing Vettel into the gravel. And that's why Vettel lost so many positions. Even to the Williams of Russell, even though he's now back ahead of Russell in the Grand Prix. As we are, by the way, on lap 4 out of 53. And Max Verstappen, by the way, has now closed the gap. The gap is now half a second as they're about to enter Parabolica. And Verstappen definitely has more grip as DRS is now enabled. On lap 5 out of 53. And Ricciardo, of course, will weave. He'll also do that little trick where if at any point he can put his wheel into the grass to try and kick up some dirt into the face of Max Verstappen, as Perez also has DRS on Carlos Sainz, and Carlos Sainz defending the middle of the track and doing exactly what is allowed. But Ricciardo, still, pace-wise, is pretty good at the moment. He's pulling away about a second a lap. Or maybe not a second a lap, but a few tenths per lap. As Pierre Gasly has also come in, so Gasly is out of the race as well. Oh dear. What an embarrassing turn of events for them. And with Alpine, both cars in the points, big problems for AlphaTauri in terms of the constructors' fight. So Gasly and Tsunoda, both AlphaTauris are out, as race control deemed the Turn 4 incident between Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen a nothing incident, and no investigation necessary. From what I've seen so far of it, I'd have to say that I think that's the right decision, but I would like to see a further replay of what happened, as Verstappen, by the way, still tucked right up the back of Daniel Ricciardo as they now begin lap 6 out of 53. Let me just update that Bottas is ahead of Russell, as Sainz and Giovinazzi are under investigation for the Turn 5 incident. I think Giovinazzi might get a penalty for that, because coming back onto track, I can't remember if he went off the track, but just the way he came across was, I think caused his own accident there. Can't really blame, I don't think, Sainz too much in that incident. And here's a replay of Bottas passing Russell for 13th. And we can see, even on the hard tyre, the pace of the Mercedes, because Bottas is very quickly making his way through the back markers. A lot quicker than I thought he would. As he's now 2 seconds behind Sebastian Vettel. Sebastian Vettel currently struggling. 2.5 behind Latifi. Saying that, Latifi's doing really well. He's only 1.2 seconds behind Ocon. Of course, 1.2 seconds away from a point. Got to say, Latifi has driven very well in the last few races, and I think has really earned a lot of people's respect in the last few races, and I think has shown he is absolutely good enough to be in Formula 1. As Max is still within half a second, now 0.6 of a second or 0.7 of a second as they enter the pit straight, as they're now on laps 7 out of 53, and just to update you, Lewis Hamilton is within a second of Lando Norris, but not close enough to go for an overtake. And that Mercedes power in the back of the McLaren really helping McLaren at the moment. And Verstappen, of course, will look to put him off. But that's not going to work on someone like Daniel Ricciardo, who has, and I think thankfully for McLaren in this situation, he has led Grand Prix before. Not just led Grand Prix before, he's won plenty of races before. He's won, how many races has he won? 7, I think, has he won? 7 races. So this is not new territory. Just him now remembering what it's like to compete at the front of a Grand Prix. By the way, I've got to say that Charles Leclerc doing pretty well at the moment to hang on only 7.8 seconds off the lead on lap 7. I thought he'd be dropping back a bit more than that. Carlos Sainz is doing a bit more of the pace that I would expect from them, as Ricciardo, by the way, has pulled out a massive gap over Max Verstappen on this lap, so maybe Verstappen dropping back to cool his car down, I don't know. But Max is now 1.4 seconds behind Ricciardo. And of course, with the McLaren being quicker in a straight line, as Latifi has passed Ocon for 10th. Nicholas Latifi up into 10th place as time penalty for Antonio Giovinazzi. No real surprise there, as Perez continues his onslaught on the Ferrari of Sainz and really needs to get past him in the next few laps if he wants to get past. As a couple cars in the background, wheel to wheel, it's Vettel and Ocon for 11th and 12th place, and they're now cutting to it, I think. But yeah, Nicholas Latifi up to 10th place. Look at this. Russell gets his contract, and now his teammate, showing him the way at the moment. Latifi, 5 seconds clear of Russell and in the points in 10th place on genuine pace. You can see him now. So great there for the Canadian, who I think, like I said, I think gets a lot of unfair flack. I think actually this season has done pretty well in the Williams. And if you look at the speed traps from Friday, Latifi was actually the quickest out of anyone in pretty much all of them. So it'd be very hard for Ocon to stay with Latifi, I think. And so we're now on lap 9 out of 53. Verstappen quicker on that lap by about half a second. And now back within a second of his ex-teammate. As we've got a bit of a train behind Latifi. But to be honest, I don't think Latifi is going to be really with this lot anymore. I think he'll probably, as Perez round the outside of Carlos Sainz. And Perez, he should get the move done, but Sainz moves back ahead around the outside. But as long as Perez gets back in the slipstream, should have the pace here, the straight line speed to get ahead of Carlos Sainz. Perez round the outside. And yes, he does. Sergio Perez is up into... And now defensive position against Bottas has passed Vettel down the order. And Perez brilliantly up to 6th. Great move by Sergio Perez. And now he has about 4 or 5 seconds to get after Charles Leclerc for 5th place. And then if we could do that, then maybe get into the race at the front 4. As, Bottas is now up to P12. As Verstappen still about 0.8 of a second behind. Now 0.9 behind Ricciardo. Ricciardo not really under threat. As they're now into the double digits. We're now on lap 10 out of 53. And yeah, Verstappen has DRS. Hamilton also has DRS on Norris, but unable to go anywhere with it. So we do have a stalemate up front. Charles Leclerc doing pretty well to maintain within 4 seconds of Lewis Hamilton. But now Sergio Perez, who is 5.5 seconds behind, I think will slowly but surely make his way up to him. As Latifi, by the way, even better, he's in 10th place and he's broken over a second away from Ocon. So now Ocon doesn't have DRS. He's really in a bad position because Latifi has the straight line speed to easily now pull away on the straights as Verstappen continues with his DRS. Hamilton definitely closer to Norris. And I will say, the hard compound tyre is working very well right now. And Hamilton, I think, will be very happy with the way things are going right now. Yes, he's in 4th. Yes, he is probably a bit frustrated in the slipstream and the dirty air of Lando Norris. But with Verstappen 2nd and only, 3.5 seconds ahead of him, and with Hamilton on the hard tyre, and he will obviously go on the medium later, Lewis Hamilton is in a very good position, as long as Verstappen doesn't get into the lead here. You do feel, if Verstappen gets into the lead, there is a chance that Verstappen could start to pull away from this little pack. As Bottas is all over the back of Esteban Ocon out of the Parabolica. And yeah, easily gets the overtake done down the inside. And Valtteri Bottas is now up to P11. And his next victim will be Nicholas Latifi. And Bottas at the moment, just trying to see how far he is off podium. He is... he's not too far, actually. Not as far as I thought he would be. He's 15, 16 seconds? And he's on the hard compound tyre as well. So Bottas is doing pretty well at the moment. Just needs to make sure when he gets up behind the car that he dispatches them pretty quickly. And if he keeps that up, then he's got the pace, Bottas. He has got the pace. I think Mercedes, like I said, I think they're in a very good position here. And I think as the race goes on, as long as Max Verstappen is not in the lead, I think Lewis Hamilton is in a brilliant position as Hamilton closing up to Norris a lot out of Parabolic. And I think Lewis Hamilton absolutely going to go for a move here on Lando Norris. Norris will have to defend to the inside. He does. Hamilton will go to the outside. Norris, though, holds the inside/middle line. Now Hamilton will try a switch back through the exit. And he should get a good run on the exit of the first chicane up to the second as Norris is trying to hold that left-hand side line. The McLaren, though, pulling away again in the now Hamilton's not in the slipstream, and Norris keeps ahead. Can Hamilton have a go on the exit of this corner? No, not quite. So Hamilton now starting to really get after Norris, and I think considering they've lost about a second to the front runners, the two front runners, Ricciardo and Verstappen. I think Hamilton really now needs to step it up and get past Norris as soon as possible because he doesn't want to be losing any more time because clearly he is quicker and on a much better performing tyre. As just seeing Emerson Fittipaldi in the McLaren pits. Great to see him still about. Of course, the two-time Formula 1 world champion. Once for McLaren, once for Lotus. And Hamilton able to take so much more speed into Parabolica that he's almost going too wide himself. As we're now on lap 13, and Hamilton will yet again, yes he will, get the DRS. Norris, will he defend to the inside? Norris kind of makes a move to the middle, but because the McLaren is so quick in a straight line, Hamilton can't really get enough of his car alongside to throw it down the inside or anything. So Hamilton has to wait, but he's definitely way quicker. As talking of being way quicker, Valtteri Bottas already has got rid of Nicholas Latifi. And he's up to 10th place. And yeah, Bottas at the moment is he's about 20 seconds now for podium. So he's still lost a bit of time. But given, again, he's on this hard compound tyre and he'll be a lot faster at the end of the race on the softer tyre of the medium, Bottas is definitely a threat for the later part of this race as Lando Norris's front right, I mean, there's a bit of pickup on it, but the front right definitely starting to struggle and definitely wearing a lot more than Hamilton's by the look of it, but there is still quite a bit of pickup on those tyres. As Ricciardo and Verstappen now begin lap 14 out of 53. And Norris and Hamilton do as well. And by the way, Charles Leclerc is actually closing the gap to that fight between Norris and Hamilton. So Leclerc really pulling himself in here. And I'm sure the crowd will really be loving that. He's only 2.2 seconds now behind Norris and Hamilton. And continues to close that gap. As Perez is closing in on Leclerc, but not that quickly. It's a tenth or two per lap, really. But Leclerc, like I said, he is coming at these two. And if Hamilton doesn't get on with it, then he'll have to look in his mirrors as well. As Leclerc now has closed it to 1.5 seconds. As Ricciardo is 1 second ahead of Max Verstappen in the lead of the Italian Grand Prix. Verstappen still has DRS but can't go anywhere with it. And McLaren having their stunning straight line speed is what is keeping them in the lead and in a great position with Lando Norris as well. As that battle, by the way, between Latifi, Ocon and Vettel has reignited because Ocon is now within a second of Latifi and Vettel also has DRS on Ocon. As now on lap 15 out of 53, Ricciardo 1.1 ahead of Verstappen as Hamilton has DRS on Norris, but he's nowhere near this time. And Leclerc continues to catch Hamilton and Norris. And Charles Leclerc, actually, I mean, he drove brilliantly here, of course, 2 years ago to win the Italian Grand Prix. But considering how I thought Ferrari would be doing, and also considering how his teammates doing at the moment, Carlos Sainz, by the way, is 10 seconds behind Charles Leclerc. Leclerc is only, what, 6.5, 7 seconds off the lead. Doing very well right now is Charles Leclerc. So we'll see how he gets on. I mean, we've seen so many times this season Charles Leclerc driving well beyond the performance of the car. Is slight contact there. Ocon and Vettel into the second chicane. Vettel was around the outside. Ocon was in the middle, but mostly to the right-hand side. And then Vettel was braking so late around the outside. Contact, I think, was made. Got to say, though, I think Ocon will be fine with in terms of that incident, because I don't really think Sebastian Vettel had any real place to go there in terms of, it's not like he was ahead of him. And I mean, it's not the same as Leclerc and Hamilton 2 years ago. I think Hamilton was definitely more so alongside than Vettel was. But yeah, I think that's absolutely fine. But Vettel desperately trying to get past Ocon in that close fought battle. As we're now on lap 16 out of 53. Pit stops should be coming up in about probably 10 laps time, I'd say, is when you'll start seeing some pit stops. As Vettel and Ocon, by the way, is under investigation. As Ricciardo leads by 1 second. Now it's gone down to 8 tenths because of Max Verstappen having the DRS. And Ricciardo has been very comfortable in the lead. Max Verstappen's not really been able to force Ricciardo into a defensive maneuver. So, yeah, Ricciardo has been comfortable, really. And I think the only way Max Verstappen is going to get past is through the pit stop phase. I don't see how Verstappen can overtake him on track, because the Red Bull just simply doesn't have the straight line speed compared to the McLaren to get the job done, as we have entered lap 17 out of 53. And so the battles continue as Valtteri Bottas is now half a second behind Fernando Alonso, as they have just entered the pit straight. And Bottas, yeah, will easily overtake Fernando. So Valtteri Bottas up to 9th. As Ricciardo says, limitation is the rear. Rear tyres do take a pounding round here because of the, really because of the chicanes, I would say. And also the parabolica, you do get a bit of, the tyre slipping through there. But, yeah, the exit of the chicanes really is what destroys the tyres, especially in this heat. And if you do, and you really have to, at the second chicane, because you're rumbling also over the curb, it puts more vibration and hurts the tyres even more. So, yeah, rear tyres out of those chicanes do take a pounding. And I'd say probably the rear tyres are the biggest areas of concern for tyre wear. And, of course, front tyres don't look great at the moment, but the rear tyres is what, like I said, does take the most severe pounding around this track, as we're now on lap 18 and Max Verstappen still only 8 or 9 tenths of a second behind Ricciardo, as Norris is 5.1 off the lead. As, yeah, Verstappen saying rear's starting to slide. And yeah, Lando Norris 5 seconds off the lead in 3rd place. Hamilton in 4th. Hamilton is now 1.2 seconds behind Lando Norris. So, yeah, Hamilton, not good pace right now. He's had his go, and it's not worked. And now he is... how far is he off the lead? 7.5 seconds. So Hamilton, he's not out of it. He's still in a very good position, I feel. Because once we get to the pit stop phase, I think his race will really come alive. But he really had to get past Norris when he was wheel to wheel with him. He really had to, because if he did, he'd be right on the back of that fight now of Ricciardo and Verstappen. But now he is still stuck in 4th place. as Ricciardo is, I think, broken the DRS of Verstappen, and yes, he has. So Ricciardo has escaped it briefly, but Verstappen will still close in purely with slipstream. As Charles Leclerc, by the way, is still 3 seconds behind Lewis Hamilton. Good news if you're a Sergio Perez fan. Perez is now only 3 seconds behind Leclerc, so Perez really starting to gain on the Ferrari, and also, I think importantly for Red Bull, starting to gain on Hamilton. As, in about 6 or 7 laps time, we should start seeing some pit stops, I'd imagine. For this Grand Prix, as Esteban Ocon we're looking at now, he is within a second of Nicholas Latifi. Because of how quick the Williams is in a straight line, he only gained about 1/10 of a second with DRS. So that is, just shows you how quick the Williams is in a straight line. Russell, by the way, is not totally down and out. He's only 2.2 seconds behind Vettel. But overall, he's, 4 seconds, I think, behind Latifi at the moment. He's not down and out, Russell, but Williams are looking pretty good. Also, Robert Kubica's pace is pretty good at the moment. He's only 3.5 behind Russell and lapping about the same as Latifi, Ocon, Vettel. So Robert Kubica having a good race, considering his physical limitations, of course. As there is Alain Prost at Alpine. Of course, he's a special advisor. And now they begin lap 20, and in a few laps we'll be already through half of this Grand Prix. As the race has only been going, I think, 30 minutes. Like I said, this is the quickest race of the year. As Ocon is still within a second, but I don't think we'll be anywhere near the back of Latifi when they come down to turn 1. As now Valtteri Bottas is all over the back of Lance Stroll. Haven't mentioned Stroll. Not really doing much of anything, but, doing his pace in 8th place. He's about to be overtaken probably in the next lap or so by Bottas. And, Stroll heading, I think, right now for a comfortable points finish, especially with Gasly out of the race. As Ocon is closely following Latifi down to the second chicane, but not close enough to get anything done. Yeah, Stroll really in the middle of nowhere, as he's comfortably ahead of Alonso in 10th, as Ocon has got a 5-second time penalty for, I'm going to guess, forcing another driver off the track. Oh no, causing a collision. I'll have to see a replay of that. To be honest. But, with Lance Stroll, he's in the middle of nowhere because he's 6 seconds behind Sainz in 7th. And then he's, 4 seconds ahead of Alonso, who's 10th, who's his main rival, I'd say. So he's not really, Stroll, in a race with anyone, but he's still driving very well. Also, Carlos Sainz is not in a race with anyone because he's 7 seconds behind Sergio Perez, and that gap is increasing. And he's 6 seconds ahead. As Verstappen has just jumped over the first chicane. They're just showing a replay of it now. And he got quite close to Ricciardo then, down into turn 1. But he locked up the outside front and went skipping across the chicane. So Max Verstappen is trying to hustle Ricciardo, but he just can't do it. The McLaren, too quick in or on the straights, but also in the corners, pretty handy as well. As Hamilton is still 1.1 seconds behind. Norris is Bottas still behind Stroll. Bottas really has got to get this overtake done on this next time round to the pit straight, because can't afford to waste any more time. At the moment, Bottas is, about a pit stop. Maybe not a pit stop, but say 3/4 of a pit stop behind the people in the podium positions. So he's not out of the race yet, considering the strategy he's on and how quick of a car he is driving when in clean air. But he does need to get this overtake done on Stroll pronto, as Bottas and Stroll come onto the pit straight. And Bottas, can he go for a move now? down the inside? Yes, he does. So Valtteri Bottas is up to 8th. And now Bottas has 6.5 seconds to get after Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari. As a turn 2 incident with Verstappen, him jumping across the chicane has been noted. And Verstappen saying really tricky with the rears as he's dropped behind Ricciardo to the point where he's not got DRS anymore. So Verstappen starting to struggle. And Norris and Hamilton, by the way, are actually closer to the leader now than they were. Norris was 5 seconds behind the leader. Now it's 3.8. So even better news for Lewis Hamilton as McLaren, here at the end of lap 22, are getting ready for a pit stop. And is it Daniel Ricciardo? Yes, it is. Daniel Ricciardo in for a pit stop. And Red Bull, I think, have done a dummy pit stop there to force Red Bull in. So Verstappen now into the lead from Norris in second. And so Red Bull did a dummy there. Good stop, though, for Ricciardo, but has a bit of traffic ahead of Carlos Sainz, which will possibly help Verstappen. So Verstappen up to first, Norris now second, Hamilton third, Leclerc fourth, Perez fifth, and then Carlos Sainz is in 6th place. The McLaren falling for the dummy there. We'll see if it costs them. Sebastian Vettel is also in the pits. We are now on lap 23 out of 53. As Verstappen now comes down to the Ascari chicane. By the way, Hamilton now within a second of Norris and right behind him. Hamilton now, I think now that the pit stops have begun, is starting his push for victory. And he can absolutely still win. He's what? Under 5 seconds behind. As Ricciardo, according to the AWS, Ricciardo, given his current lap times, will still be ahead of Verstappen when Verstappen finishes this pit stop. As Max comes in now on lap 24 and puts on the hard tyres. Slow pit stop, very slow pit stop, very, very slow pit stop, even slower. Oh no! And is the pit stop done? Yes, it is. And that is a massive, massive moment in this Grand Prix. An 11.1 second pit stop. And Verstappen, he's behind Bottas now. And he's down, I think, to 10th place. As Lewis Hamilton has passed Lando Norris on track. Lewis Hamilton. There you go. Exit of the second chicane. Lewis Hamilton, just as Verstappen has an issue, Hamilton then goes and strikes, and Lewis Hamilton is in a phenomenal position on great tyres, and Lewis Hamilton surely now will feel as though this race is in his hands now. Norris still has DRS, but I don't think he'll be able to stay with him. And here we go. So on the run up to the second chicane, and Hamilton gets a great slipstream and just goes right round the outside. Great move from Lewis Hamilton, doing what world champions do, making vital overtakes work at vital moments in a Grand Prix. That's the difference between a world champion and a driver that isn't quite at that level. As, Verstappen. And I think, don't quite know what happened there. I think it might have been something on the rear tyre that caused that slow pit stop as Lando Norris has come into the pits. By the way, I will update the rest of the order because the rest of the order is not exactly correct. I will do that soon. Not right now, though. So, Charles Leclerc and Ricciardo finds his way past Carlos Sainz. So, Ricciardo is up now to 4th place as Norris comes out behind Stroll and ahead of Max Verstappen. So, Lando Norris is up to a net... he stays, really, in a net 3rd place. Net 3rd place. So it's Hamilton leading from Leclerc 2nd. And then Perez is 3rd. Daniel Ricciardo is in 4th place. Carlos Sainz is 5th. And then you've got Bottas in 6th. By the way, that pit stop for Verstappen is great news also for Valtteri Bottas. Because even though he's ahead of him right now, And yeah, Bottas has to pit again. He's 6.5 seconds clear. And Bottas, once he comes out from his first pit stop, he will be very quick. And then, yeah, Bottas 6th. And then it is Stroll in 7th. Norris is... no, it's Sainz in 5th. Let me just update that. Lewis Hamilton now comes into the pits. I need to update the lap count. Let me just do that. Sorry that we've skipped lap 25, but it's now lap 26. And, oh, the pit stop was not that quick. It was 4.2 seconds. Daniel Ricciardo will keep the lead, but Lewis Hamilton will be on a softer compound to go to the end. Let's see where Lewis Hamilton comes out in regards to Lando Norris as Max Verstappen does the fastest lap. And there is Norris, and Norris is ahead. And Max Verstappen now is going to go round the outside into the first chicane. And Verstappen round the outside. And, oh, contact with Hamilton. They're both in the gravel. Hamilton and Verstappen, they're both in the gravel. Verstappen is parked on the front wing of Lewis Hamilton's car. And they are surely both out of the Grand Prix. Mental. A safety car has come out. And yeah, they are surely both out. The safety car is released at an absolutely crucial time and a crucial moment in the championship. Wow. Anyway, I need to update the order. So, Max Verstappen is out, by the way. He's gotten out of the car. I think Hamilton might be just waiting to see if they let go. If they take away Max's car first, Hamilton might be able to reverse because his rear tyres are still on the grass. So, we will see it. By the way, this is great for Leclerc. He's currently in the lead. Hasn't pitted yet, but he's now going to pit under safety car conditions. So Charles Leclerc might come out in the lead here. As we're now on lap 27 out of 53. And Charles Leclerc, great pit stop for him. And now Ricciardo is into lead. And we just update the order. It's now massively changed around. And yeah, Lewis Hamilton is out. Lewis Hamilton is out. Hamilton is out as well. So both Hamilton and Verstappen are out of this Grand Prix. Again, reminder, safety car on lap 27 out of 53. And now I'll do your order. So it's Ricciardo leading from Leclerc second. Norris is third. Perez fourth. And then you've got Carlos Sainz in fifth. Sainz, though, he has pitted. Carlos Sainz is pitted. He's in fifth. Bottas sixth. And then you've got Esteban Ocon in seventh place. And still, the cars are parked on top of each other. And, no, Stroll is in seventh place now. And yeah, Hamilton is getting out of the car. I thought he was going to wait to see if the marshals would just release his car off, Verstappen's car off, to let him back through. Yes, Stroll is 7th, Alonso 8th, and of course the only man who gains from that accident is Max Verstappen. So Verstappen won't be totally disappointed with that, because given what happened with the pit stop, Verstappen, I think, has actually gained through that. Not saying, of course, he did that on purpose, but not exactly the worst thing in the world, is it? Here we go. Here's a replay. As, by the way, the two Williamses are now in the top 10, 9th and 10th. So Verstappen, Hamilton comes out for his pit stop. Verstappen goes right round the outside. And who was at fault there? Was there anyone at fault? On the onboard camera, I'd have to say, to me, it looks like a racing incident because Hamilton gave him the space, but Verstappen he clipped the orange sausage curb on the inside of turn 2. And that's what sent him up in the air and on top of Lewis Hamilton's car. If there's anyone at fault, it's definitely got to be Max Verstappen. But he only clipped it slightly, and then once he clipped it, he then clipped the rear tyre of Hamilton and then got sent over the top, and thank God for the halo. And the floor, Max's car snapped on the halo of Lewis Hamilton's car. Again, shows you the halo is brilliant, innovative device. But yeah, I'd say Hamilton gave him the space. There is no doubt about that. And I'll definitely have to analyze that incident in my race review. But he definitely gave him space, I think. He didn't turn into him and, force him to the very inside of the corner. It was more so Max Verstappen clipping that orange sausage curb, like I said, that forced him into Hamilton. But then, did Lewis Hamilton... There'll be an argument, did Lewis Hamilton force Verstappen onto that curb? I'll analyse it later, but they're both out of the race in a stunning turn of events as it will be investigated, that incident between Hamilton and Verstappen, after the Grand Prix. Just want to update the order. So, Ocon is not in 6th place. It's Bottas in 6th. I'll update the lap counter, by the way, in a moment. I'll be honest, I'm not quite... And there you go, it's lap 28 out of 53 for you guys. Yeah, the top 10 is Ricciardo, Leclerc, Norris, Perez, Sainz, Bottas, and then it is Stroll in 7th place. And then Alonso is 8th. And then you've got Russell 9th and Latifi 10th. Ocon is 11th. And then Robert Kubica is up in 12th place. Sebastian Vettel is 13th. Mick Schumacher is now 14th. Giovinazzi is 15th. Giovinazzi will be very happy with this safety car. Means he's now back in the action. And then Mazepin is 16th. So yeah, out of the race, Hamilton, Verstappen, Gasly, and Tsunoda. By the way, this is great news for Williams. 9th and 10th. And, well, we'll see if they've made their pit stops. If they have, like I said, they're in a great position here to score even more points. And of course, with the two big dogs now out of action, that means for the midfield runners that it makes their chances now of victory even better, and now gives a possibility of a surprise result. But we still have a safety car on the track. And if you want to, guys, then let me know in the chat who you thought was at fault in that incident out of Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. And yeah, I think as just seeing that, what happened, the order just had a bit of a glitch, I think. I think they're on lap 29 now. Hopefully we won't be waiting too long, as we pretty much have still half of the race to go. Be what, 30, 33 laps. And here's another replay of the incident. It's hard to decide. Really hard to decide. I wish I had Sky Plus on this Skybox so I could rewind it. That's a tough one. At the moment, I'm going to say just racing incident, because it's hard to say. Because I think you could definitely say Lewis Hamilton could have left more space, but he could have also turned into the apex if he was really on that tone of things of not leaving space. And if he did, then, yeah, absolutely Hamilton would have been at fault for, not leaving Max any space. But there's also an argument of, was Max too aggressive on the second part of the chicane? He has had an incident like that before at that corner with Felipe Massa in 2017, so it's not an unusual thing for him. I'll have to look at it later, but from what I've seen so far, I'd have to say racing incident. I think Max probably a bit aggressive, thinking he was going to just charge into turn 2 and force Hamilton out there. But I think Hamilton probably could have left a tad more space. But then again, I think he did say a few races ago that he wasn't going to leave him as much space anymore. Which, Well, if he left him more space, that probably wouldn't have happened. As I now on lap 30 out of 53. And yeah, if you want to, guys, let me know in the chat what you thought of that incident. I'd have to say, again, at the moment, from what I have seen so far, I'd have to say both to blame. And if both are to blame, I'd say racing incident. Because, yeah, Max, given that he wasn't fully alongside, but he wasn't behind Hamilton enough to the point where it would have been a completely bonkers, stupid overtake. But he wasn't ahead enough to be, to really have the right to throw his car onto the apex of the corner and to try and not push Hamilton out of the way deliberately, but, force his way through and get the position. And with Hamilton, like I said, I think probably could have left a bit more room. Not loads more. I'm not saying he needed to, just let him go. They're racing, of course, but I think he could have left probably a tad more room for Verstappen. Maybe he didn't know exactly where he was. It's very tricky when you're coming out of the pits there on the inside and there's a car going around the outside, because you're having to pull, you're having to move whilst on the entry to the braking zone, which is hard enough trying to focus, and then you've got a car going around the outside of you. As by the way, safety car is in at the end of this lap. And yeah, you got a car going around the outside of you, and then you're having to just focus on multiple different things. So maybe that played a factor for Hamilton, but I think both of them, to be honest, were at fault. I think Hamilton just a bit too aggressive in defense, and Verstappen just a bit too aggressive in the, try in his attempted overtake. But yeah, I will analyze that. Like I said, later today, I'll upload it as a part of the race review, and also I will upload it as a standalone tomorrow at 12 p.m. UK time. If you want to watch me analyse that incident, then make sure to watch that tomorrow. But anyway, we've still got 22 more laps of the Italian Grand Prix, and Daniel Ricciardo now gets them going again, as Charles Leclerc is in second for the Tifosi. Can he take a second victory here? I don't think he will, because Lando Norris is right in the slipstream. Bottas, I think, is already passing Sainz, and Norris is up to second. And McLaren, is he up to second? No, not quite. And Leclerc holds around the outside, just about. Bottas, though, is up into fifth place. I think it was a person jumping across the chicane there. And Sainz is actually up to fifth. And Norris on the grass and almost making a contact there with Leclerc. That was very scary indeed. And Norris is up to second. And Carlos Sainz has actually stayed ahead of Bottas there. So there you go, F1 getting away in pretty much the order they were in, except for Norris ahead of Leclerc, and McLaren 1-2 at Monza. This is brilliant for them. And Giovinazzi is now up to 14th. And yeah, Norris had to take to the grass briefly there. And at that speed, that's a very scary moment, but he got away with it. If it was wet, though, he would have been going into the wall at a very high speed, as Ricciardo has now started to pull a gap. And even though McLaren got 1-2, though, because Valtteri Bottas is still in this race and still very quick, that does not mean that McLaren are going to win. Very long way to go. As Norris has his time deleted for track limits, even though it doesn't matter. But if you do it too many times, you will start getting penalties. As Carlos Sainz tried to defend against Valtteri Bottas, but he cannot do so. As Bottas goes around the outside. And Valtteri Bottas is up to fifth, as Perez, by the way, is all over the back of Charles Leclerc. As Alonso very nearly overtaken by Rosso. Actually, no, that was Ocon passing Latifi. As Perez, round the outside of the second chicane, jumps across the chicane. He'll have to give that back. He's not going to. Or not going to. I think he might have to, though. As there's a yellow flag in Sector 2. And I think it's Mick Schumacher. And yeah, Ocon is up to 10th. Green flag now. And yeah, I think it was Mick Schumacher who had some sort of moment. And here is a replay of all contact between Schumacher and Vettel at the first chicane. And then... oh, Jesus Christ. Our wonderful... the most, renowned... and with Perez there, he's locked up around the outside into the chicane and then gone across the escape road. I still think he'll have to give that position back, as Valtteri Bottas, now lap 33, is about to pass Charles Leclerc down the inside, and Bottas making light work of this lot, or is he? Leclerc running outside, but Leclerc goes across the escape road, and Leclerc cannot hold it, and he'll have to give that back. But Perez, I think, really has got away with it a bit in this Grand Prix. As Leclerc gets right back into the slipstream, he'll now try to go right round the outside, and he does! Charles Leclerc right back past him. The Bottas has his work cut out there. What I was going to say is our most favourite driver in the world doing some wonderful piece of driving and taking out his teammate at the start of the second chicane. Mazepin, please get in the bin. As Ricciardo on lap 33 is leading by 0.8 of a second from Lando Norris. And the gap is coming down because Norris is right in the slipstream and will have DRS in a moment. As Perez only 2 seconds off the lead. And we have a very close field here. As Norris, of course, with the season he's had, he'll be desperate to win. But McLaren will be desperate not for anything to happen in terms of an incident, because a 1-2 at Monza, they've not had this for a while, and they won't want any accidents. As Bottas now around the outside of Charles Leclerc into turn 1. And Bottas gets it done. Valtteri Bottas is up to 4th, and he should now pull away because Leclerc, I don't think, has the power to respond to Bottas there. And yeah, an easy overtake. And I think, is that the same overtake? I don't think it is. I think, no, this is a replay of Leclerc and Bottas from earlier on. Bottas saying, how is that allowed? You go off and get a tow from that. Yeah, it's not great, but it's technically within the rules, so there you go. Good fighting, though, from the Monegasque. I think we'll do well to get on the podium. To be honest, now he drops back down to 5th, and his teammate is in 6th place. As Ricciardo now pulls the gap to 1.3 seconds over his teammate, as Sergio Perez is closing in on the leaders. And so is Bottas. I think we're in for a 4-way fight here for victory between Ricciardo, Norris, Perez and Bottas. Who thought that was going to happen? Bottas might well win this race, and he started last on the actual grid in 18th place and has just done the fastest lap of the race. With 18 laps to go, now we're on lap 35 out of 53. And Perez continuing to close the gap on Ricciardo. And Perez will be thinking possibly he can get his second Grand Prix win here after his teammate and his teammate's big rival have exited the Grand Prix. And McLaren, they did have a front row lockout in 2012 of Hamilton and Button, and I think would have got a 1-2 in that Grand Prix if Jenson Button had not had a problem. But the last 1-2 that McLaren had was Canada 2010. They're showing on the screen. Their last victory, of course, Brazil 2012. Yeah, Canada 2010 was the last 1-2. The last 1-2 at Monza was 2007. When Alonso beat Lewis Hamilton in that closing stages of that epic title fight between Alonso, Hamilton and Raikkonen. As they're about to begin lap 36, and Valtteri Bottas is really now getting up to the back of Perez and giving something for Perez to think about. As Perez not really close enough to the back of Lando Norris, as Bottas, he's now closing in, and no, not really closing in enough. to go for an overtake. But the top 4 are separated as Norris really closed in on Ricciardo then down the pit straight. The top 4 separated by 2 seconds on lap 36 out of 53. As, you got Leclerc then 5th, Sainz in P6, and then Stroll 7th, Alonso 8th, Russell is still in 9th, Ocon 10th, and then Latifi, Kubica, Vettel, and Giovinazzi, Mazepin, Schumacher, with again your retirements, Hamilton, Verstappen, Gasly, and Tsunoda as Norris. I think at the moment could probably go quicker, but it's about the team here. Because at the moment, Ferrari, their big rivals, are heading for 18 points. But at the moment, for McLaren, are heading for 43 points. 43 points. That is a lot of points. And of course, with them only, 10.5 points behind Ferrari and the constructors, means they would not only overtake Ferrari, they would go comfortably into 3rd. So this is a massive race for them. As Bottas really closing on Perez through the exit, the Parabolica. Let's see if he can get close enough. On now lap 37 out of 53. And Bottas, he does close. Does he send it? No, he doesn't. Perez, though, did get pretty close to the back of Lando Norris. Let me just update the picture on the screen. There you go. Even though this man is not in the race anymore. As Bottas, Perez, Norris and Ricciardo all within 2 seconds. And Charles Leclerc, by the way, only 3.5 seconds off the lead and keeping nicely with this pack. And really, after what we've seen so far and what has been a really good Grand Prix, I've really enjoyed it so far. Anything can happen in this race now. I wouldn't put anything past a surprise, as Bottas not really close enough down to Ascari, but Valtteri Bottas, without a doubt, has the quickest car out of these 4. If he had clear air, he'd be pulling away very quickly. I mean, you saw when Hamilton passed Norris, he pulled, I think, 2 seconds almost over Norris in the space of half a lap, I think. So, Mercedes have got the speed. They just haven't had at all today the track position, as Perez really quite wide through Parabolica. That's his line. And Bottas quite hugged to the inside as Perez, 5-second penalty for overtaking Leclerc illegally off the track. As Bottas, will he go down the inside of Perez at turn 1? No, he will not. But Perez then is effectively out of action here. Because as long as Perez stays in at least 2nd place, then the podium really at the moment is Ricciardo, Norris, Bottas. Bottas really, now that Perez has got that penalty, needs to pass Perez as soon as possible. Because he cannot afford for Perez to just hold him up and prevent Valtteri from winning his 2nd race, of course, of the weekend. As Norris has not got DRS on his teammate. And really, if I'm McLaren, you're going to have to call off any racing for now and just bring it home. That's got to be the aim. Bring it home. Because this result, and considering how quick McLaren have been this weekend, I think this result would be the first time in a long time that you could say that McLaren were back. Because the last time they were in a position like this was 2012. And that was the last time they were able to win races on pure speed. As we're now on lap 39 out of 53. And now Charles Leclerc, by the way, is right behind Bottas in the Ferrari. Leclerc now in 5th. Can he give something to the home crowd? Some sort of good result for them, considering even though Ferrari have been good this season, they've been still nowhere near the part of the grid where they would want to be. But as long as McLaren don't, with their 2 drivers, as long as they don't make mistakes, as by the way, Mazepin and Schumacher are racing again. Looks as though Schumacher, though, has got the position. So Mick Schumacher up to 15th, and considering his teammate took him out, that's a good thing. But as long as the two McLaren drivers make sure that they get the exits of the corners right and almost try and perfect them, then I don't see how Perez and Bottas can overtake them, because they're just too quick down the straights. They really, really are. As we are now going on to lap 40 out of 53. Just, 14 laps to go? Or 13 laps to go? As Ricciardo about 1.1 seconds ahead of Norris. There's another time penalty for Mazepin of 5 seconds. That'll be for causing a collision at turn 4. Yep, there you go. Slam dunk. Stupid driving, I have to say, from Mazepin in the Haas. And here's a replay of Schumacher and Mazepin at the first chicane, and the reason Schumacher got past is because Mazepin tried to defend and then locked up his outside front absolutely massively and put a massive flat spot through the tyre, and we'll probably have to pit with that because that is going to feel horrible. So, Mazepin showing us all why he's such a brilliant racing driver, really is, as Perez is now got back within a second of Norris. But Norris is starting to pull away from Perez and Bottas, really. And yeah, he's now pulled over a second to Perez. The McLarens, like I said, they're just too quick down the straights. But also in the corners, they're pretty good as well. Not as good, I don't think, but they're still pretty good. As Ricciardo begins lap 41 out of 53. And considering the tough time I told you about that Nib, who can't join us today, unfortunately, is going through, has been going through, I really hope that Ricciardo can get this win, because I know he would absolutely love it if that was to happen. As Ricciardo, and of course there's been plenty of Australian joy this weekend. Oscar Piastri in F2 is pretty much dominating the series now, and I'm sure he'll be hoping, Nib, that we have another Australia on the grid pretty soon. And to be honest, considering how good he's been, Oscar, I think we will be seeing him definitely by 2023. Maybe even next year, you never know. As Bottas there, just a replay of him locking up. And the entry to the first chicane getting a bit too close to the back of Sergio Perez. And yellow flag in sector 1, and I think it's Mazepin. I don't know for sure though. And now it's a green flag. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was Mazepin who caused that yellow flag. So maybe he's locked up again, because he's now 34 seconds behind his teammate. Don't know if he's pitted again. Going to assume not. As now lap 42, and as long as McLaren keep doing what they're doing, getting the exit of the corners right, then I don't see how Perez and Bottas can get through here. I just don't see how they can. Gonna have to take, really, I think, Perez. If Perez can't get DRS anymore from Norris ahead of him, and I think what it's going to take is Bottas passing Norris and then spicing things up. Because, like I said, Bottas does have the quickest car on the track, but he can't use it. As, by the way, Charles Leclerc is still right behind Bottas in 5th. And also, right behind in 6th is Carlos Sainz. So both Ferraris are right there if anything happens. And Mr. Spinotto is in the garage, hoping his 2 cars can bring it home. 5th and 6th would be a really good result for Ferrari, considering this should be their weakest track of the season. But yeah, 5th and 6th would be pretty good, but compared to their main rivals, not quite good enough. As Bottas is close to Perez, but can he just get enough grip and not be affected too much on the dirty air? And yeah, Bottas is quite close. Now onto the pit straight, Bottas right behind Sergio Perez, now down to turn 1. Bottas is going to have to try and go around the outside. He's not going to, though. He'll try a switchback, though, and he should get, because he is on softer tyres, he should get a brilliant run now up to the second chicane. And Bottas now round the outside, needs to get this move done if he's going to win the race. Perez will try and hold the inside line. Bottas gets it done, or does he? Because Perez comes back on the inside. And Sergio Perez back to third. And Bottas just did not get any traction out of turn 5 there, the chicane, the exit of the second chicane. And Bottas now must wait. But he's going to have to get the move done pretty much the next lap or the lap after, because now they're about 3 or 4 seconds off the lead. Really helped McLaren, this battle. And yeah, Bottas got the move done. The extra straight line speed of the Mercedes really helped. But then he had just no traction on the exit, and Perez knew exactly what he was doing. So, and Toto Wolff celebrated and then banged the desk because Bottas immediately was repassed and was thankfully smiling about it as Nikita Mazepin has parked up as we're now on lap 44 out of 53. Hopefully not another safety car. That car should not require a safety car or a virtual safety car. Maybe a virtual safety car, but definitely not a safety car because it is off the track and it's not really. Oh no, virtual safety car. Okay. Well, thankfully it's not a full safety car and the field isn't going to close up because that'd be a bit artificial, to be honest. But still, really, a virtual safety car is a bit, a bit safe. They're going to get the car removed pretty much in 10 seconds time. So the virtual safety car will last probably only 15 more seconds. And here's a replay. And obviously there was some sort of problem with Mazepin's car. And he parked up. Hopefully sometime soon he parks up for good when it comes to racing because he's pretty terrible. And he parked, well, there's a gap in the wall, thankfully. So the only thing he's good at is knowing where to park his car when he retires, as he normally does. And yeah, virtual safety car should, and yeah, it's about to end in just a moment. So we'll get racing. When will we get racing? Now. And Charles Leclerc, by the way, right up the back of Bottas. Bottas has really been asleep on this restart, and now Leclerc's lost a bit of time through the apex of the Parabolica. They should get DRS back though after this this pit straight, has been completed. They should get it back. Bottas will be able to have another go at Perez. I will say, I'm pretty sure Perez has gained a couple seconds through that virtual safety car. So I think Perez might have broken the rules a bit there because I'm pretty sure he was 3 seconds behind Norris. And now he's 1.1. So, yeah. Unless he's now started to drop back on purpose because Bottas is right behind him. As 8 laps to go. Ricciardo is leading by 2 seconds from Lando Norris. And Bottas, like I said, is now tucked right up behind Sergio Perez, waiting to strike. As, by the way, Sebastian Vettel has passed his someone who he actually replaced in his first ever F1 race, Sebastian Vettel, Robert Kubica. And Kubica down to 13th. And Giovinazzi in 14th. A shame for Alfa Romeo. They've not been able to nick a point on this day. Williams, though, at the moment are heading for a couple points with Russell. Great news for them. As we're now on lap 46 out of 53. As Bottas has DRS on Perez, but he's not close enough to go for a move. If Bottas is going to win, he needs to pass Perez as soon as possible. Because those McLarens, they're going to be hard to overtake. But if he's going to pass him, he needs to first get behind him but he can't. He just cannot get past Perez and make it stick. As another fight to watch out for, by the way, is the fight for 8th, 9th, and 10th between Alonso, Russell, and Ocon. And if anything goes off with that, in terms of anyone dropping down the field, that will allow Nicholas Latifi, who's currently sat in 11th place, to get into the top 10. Latifi actually finished in P11 here last year, and that was Williams' best result of 2020. He's in P11 again. As Bottas really has lost quite a bit of time locking up into the first chicane like he did. And is... he should be within a second going into the detection point. Here's a replay of Verstappen and Hamilton. And yeah, the more I see it, the more I say racing incident. Hamilton could have left more room, but I think Max was a bit ambitious, forcing his car to that point of the corner. So yeah, I'd say racing incident, 2 into 1 in that corner, considering the way Hamilton defended and the way Max Verstappen attacked. It just wasn't going to happen. By the way, thank you for the donation from Heyoka1971 for $4.99, who says Rook is the hero of the day. So there you go, Rook. There's a good comment for you. As we are now on lap 47 out of 53. And still, it is as it was. Ricciardo, Norris, Perez, Bottas, Leclerc, your top 5. And then Sainz, Stroll, Alonso, Russell, Ocon, your top 10. And Ricciardo and Norris looking pretty comfortable. And that's the advantage now for McLaren with these two drivers is, of course, they're experienced at being now fighting in these type of positions, especially Lando Norris for this season. And Ricciardo, of course, previously from his Red Bull days. He knows exactly what it's like to win Grand Prix. He's never won the Italian Grand Prix, never even been on the podium at Monza. But with 5 or so laps to go, now they're on lap 40 out of 53, Ricciardo is tantalizingly close to what would be an amazing accomplishment for him and for the team to get their first Grand Prix victory in almost 10 years. Nobody thought McLaren would go that long without a victory. After the poor year they had in 2013, they thought it would only be a matter of time. And here we are. It's almost 10 years later. And it looks as though we're heading for that. But there is still time for someone else to win this Grand Prix. As Perez and Bottas continue to push. Perez says vibrations are increasing. Perez, because of his 5-second penalty, is currently heading for 6th place. The Perez really is heading for much of nothing compared to what he would have been hoping for this Grand Prix. So yeah, not good for Perez. Bottas, I have to say Valtteri's driven... He's driven well, but not as well, I think, as he could have. I think that failed overtake on Perez, that will come back to bite him. As we now begin lap 49 out of 53. And Bottas did just creep within a second of Perez then. As Vettel is now within a second of Latifi. Latifi, by the way, gaining on Ocon for 10th. So the Williams is pretty much as quick as the Alpines, which I've got to say is a massive sign of progress for Williams. And great to see not just McLaren doing better, but also the Williams team as well, as Giovinazzi has passed his temporary teammate Robert Kubica. Giovinazzi is up 13th, Kubica 14th. Kubica, though, I have to say, I think has done pretty well in these two races. I think he's done pretty well, considering, again, his limitations. I think Robert Kubica has really shown that you know what? If you put him in a good car, I reckon Robert would probably do not too bad. He wouldn't do great. He wouldn't be anywhere near the level that he was at and that he would have been at if he never had that rally crash. But he's, you know, considering what's happened to him, he hasn't done too bad, has he? As we now begin lap 50 out of 53 as Bottas now really closes up on Sergio Perez. He's only half a second behind as they exit turn 2. Of course, the exit of the second chicane. And Bottas, really, he's going to pass Perez. It's only going to be a consolation because of Perez's penalty. Perez at the moment is 7 tenths ahead of Bottas. And then 2.7 ahead of Leclerc. And his aim really has got to be to try and extend and pull out the gap over Carlos Sainz. So Perez can finish in 5th. But doesn't look like that's going to happen as Mercedes, of course, in this race, with Bottas also taking home at the moment the fastest lap. Mercedes will extend their lead in the Constructors' Championship. But of course, most important title fight, the Drivers' Championship, is still separated by just 5 points in Max Verstappen's favour going into Russia because, of course, Hamilton and Verstappen are both out. As we have now 3 full laps remaining. Ricciardo leads from Norris second. Ricciardo a second and a half clear of Lando Norris and currently winning the Driver of the Day vote. By the way, guys, make sure at the end of this race to put in your Driver of the Day nominations into the live chat. It would be great to hear that from you guys. And I'd have to say, for me, Driver of the Day is Daniel Ricciardo. Great drive, not one mistake, brilliant pace all weekend as well. Yeah, been great. And even if he don't win by some miracle, he has been the best driver of the day. And I would say probably one of, if not the best driver of the weekend. As he continues to lead comfortably up front. Perez 3rd, Bottas 4th, Leclerc 5th, Carlos Sainz in 6th, and Sainz has dropped over 5 seconds behind. So he will not inherit any more points with Perez's penalty. So Perez is heading at the moment for 5th. And then it's Stroll 7th, Alonso 8th, Russell 9th, Ocon 10th, and then Latifi, Vettel, Giovinazzi, Kubica, and Schumacher. And under investigation is Lance Stroll, allegedly failing to slow under yellow flags. I think that'll be investigated after the race, if I'm going to be honest. But we have now begun the penultimate lap of this Italian Grand Prix. It has petered out a bit, but I think this has been a pretty good Grand Prix. Definitely a lot better than the race at Zandvoort. And it's seen a result at the moment that is something we never thought possible coming into this weekend. Still, Perez easily ahead by about 1.1 seconds of Valtteri Bottas, but Bottas will still get that podium as Ricciardo now heads down to the Ascari chicane on this penultimate lap, with Lando Norris in 2nd and McLaren in a brilliant, commanding position, leading a Grand Prix. Of course, this is where McLaren want to be, in this position, and they know they are good enough to do so. And considering the progress they have made since the end of 2018, if they continue like this, McLaren, they will get there. Especially with these two drivers, who are very, very special, as we have now begun the final lap here at the Italian Grand Prix, as the order looks to be, to me, pretty settled, as Ricciardo now exits the first chicane, as the McLaren team will wait on the pit wall for the drivers to come back round. As Ricciardo now comes into the second chicane. And Ricciardo had quite an up and down time since he left Red Bull and really left a team that could fight for victory. His last win, Monaco 2018, a brilliant drive, very, very good drive, considering he lost a lot of power from his Renault power unit at the time. And since then, it's been pretty tough for him. He has had brilliant, some absolutely brilliant drives for Renault, of course, finishing on the podiums in Imola and also at the Nürburgring. He's had plenty of those, but this will taste even sweeter than those great results from last year. And of course, it will be his first podium for McLaren, but not just his first podium, his first win for McLaren as he wins Daniel Ricciardo, the Italian Grand Prix of 2021. And it is McLaren's first win in 9 years, their first 1-2 in 11 years. And Daniel Ricciardo finishes in 11th and he gets the fastest lap point at the end with a 1:24.8. So Daniel Ricciardo taking home that extra point. Brilliant by him. And the McLaren team, what a weekend for them. And it is great to see McLaren back. And trust me, they are now back. There is no doubt about it. McLaren are finally back in Formula One. And hopefully they won't be going anywhere anytime soon. So, with Perez's penalty, Daniel Ricciardo wins. Lando Norris second. Bottas third. Great drive for Bottas. Still probably could have been better. But yeah, Bottas third. Charles Leclerc P4. By the way, gotta just say, massive credit to Zak Brown for the work he's done at McLaren. Massive credit. Without him, don't know where McLaren would be today, honestly, given the work he has done. Yeah, Bottas third. Leclerc fourth. Perez fifth. And then Carlos Sainz in P6. Lance Stroll in P7. Alonso 8th, Russell 9th. Great points finish there for Williams. We're getting used to it now. They've had 3 in the last 4 races, have Williams, of course. And then Esteban Ocon in P10. And then Latifi just missing out on a point in 11th place. Vettel 12th, Giovinazzi 13th, Kubica 14th, Schumacher 15th, and your retirements, Mazepin. And then most importantly for the championship, in a big collision, Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. And Verstappen still leading by 5 points going into Russia. And then your other 2 retirements, Gasly and Tsunoda. What an Italian Grand Prix. Another surprise result just like a year ago. A great Grand Prix. And a fantastic result. And without a doubt, like I said, McLaren are back. What a Grand Prix, guys. What a Grand Prix. And like I said, I really hoped Ricciardo would win for Nib's sake, and I'm very pleased he's done so. So there you go, guys. The Italian Grand Prix is over, and, well, Russia is next, but pretty much the European season has come to a close, and what a European leg of the calendar it's been. Plenty of up and down moments, great races, great moments, and I'm sure we'll remember this Grand Prix for quite a while. Now, quickly, before I come to the end of this stream, just going to ask you guys, what did you think of the race? Give me a rating out of 10 for what you thought of the race. I'm going to give that race I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. It wasn't quite an 8. If there was a bit more action at the end of the race, I probably would have given it an 8 or maybe a 9. But I'd say a 7 out of 10. I really enjoyed that Grand Prix. The first 30 laps were very, very enjoyable. So yeah, I really liked that Grand Prix. And of course, Hamilton and Verstappen, what a moment that was in the Grand Prix. And then, yeah, driver of the day. Also, let me know what you think of that. Who you think the driver of the day is. For me, it's the man who has won the Grand Prix, Daniel Ricciardo. Absolutely faultless. Absolutely faultless. Of course, Astros Devo says 10 out of 10 as an Australian. Infinite says 7 out of 10. Craig says 8 out of 10. BM says 8 out of 10. Sylvan says 8 out of 10. Lots of 8. So I can understand why. But I think it did peter out towards the end. So that's why I'll give it a 7. But yeah, lots of you going for an 8 out of 10. Some of you saying Max Verstappen needs to be penalised. Of course, I'll analyse that later on. Yeah, lots of 8 out of 10s. And honestly, I can't blame you guys. It was a very good Grand Prix. We cannot deny that. Definitely a race you would rewatch. And yeah, just a brilliant Grand Prix here in Italy. And I can see a lot of you very happy for Daniel Ricciardo. Well done, McLaren. Well done on your commentary. Thank you very much for that, Pat. Also, thank you, Bert Hemplar, for the kind comments, saying fantastic job as always. Well done. And yeah, any of you, saying that. Also, Aaron Hoskin saying 10 out of 10 for your great commentary. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, anyone saying that, seriously, you have no idea how much that means to me. So yeah, thank you so much for that. And you know what? I think I'll come to the end of the stream. So, guys, that is the end of the race watch-along for the 2021 Italian Grand Prix. The race review will be out in... I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate the incident analysis from the race review. So what I'll do, the race review video will be out probably between 5 and 6 p.m. UK time. If I can get it out earlier, though, I will. And then tonight, I'll record and edit and then schedule an upload for tomorrow, analysing the Verstappen-Hamilton incident at 12 p.m. UK time tomorrow. So don't forget to come along for that. And also, again, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notifications bell for that content coming up. And then, as well, the best bits from this stream will be coming out now on Tuesday at 12 p.m. UK time. There'll be plenty of content at the start of the week. And, 3 more videos for you guys. In terms of the next live stream, it will be Saturday morning for the Russian Grand Prix. I'm trying to think what time. I think 10 a.m. UK time in 2 weeks' time. On, Saturday the 20... When will it be? Saturday the 25th of September, I think it is. At 10 a.m. UK time, I'll be live for Practice 3 in Russia. And, of course, we'll do it all over again for the Russian Grand Prix. But yeah, thank you guys for coming along. Thank you guys for coming along to the streams and all of that stuff. They're great to have you along, and I'm sure you guys would have enjoyed that Grand Prix. And if you did enjoy my commentary, then thank you very, very much for that. Yeah, like I said, that's the content coming up. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notifications bell so you're notified as to when it comes out. Smash the like button, share this video and channel everywhere you can, and as well, don't forget to join my Discord server, link below in the description. Best place that is for notifications of my videos and streams. And, 500 people, I think, pretty much in that server, and it's a very active one, so be great for you to join our growing community. But guys, until my race review, my incident analysis video as well, and the Russian Grand Prix in 2 weeks' time, at the Sochi Winter Olympic Park. It has been me, Chazza HD. Goodbye.